Okay, welcome to the
We're ready.
June 9th, 2025 meeting of the Land Use and Waterfront Committee. My name is Gabe Turzo and I'm the chair of the committee. Tonight, we are joined by Assistant District Manager Brendan Burke. This meeting is called to order at 6:35 p.m. As a reminder, New York State law requires all committee members who are not able to attend the meeting in person to have their cameras on and their first and last names displayed from the time the meeting is called to order until the time the meeting is adjourned. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you may have in the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you can raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there's time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. Jim Collins has graciously volunteered to take minutes tonight. Thank you, Jim.
No.
Has begrudgingly volunteered to take.
It's more like.
Put that in the minutes. We will now take attendance by roll call. Brendan will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your names. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Majid Abdul-Samad. I. Tanya Arias.
Present.
Victoria Benatar. Who is not with us tonight. Jim Collins.
Yeah.
Maya Donahue.
Present.
Alec Militic.
Present.
Rich Mintz.
Present.
Larry Shire.
Present.
Sandra Sherrod.
Present.
Letty Simon.
Present.
Susan Steinberg. I don't see. Mark Thompson.
Present.
Gabe Turzo.
Present.
And James Vera.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay, the agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen before you. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Okay. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the May 20th meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there is no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the May 20th meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB6 website. Okay, in order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. Committee members who are unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having, or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Okay, moving on to committee business. Tonight's agenda. Item number 1, a review of the design for the proposed Innovation East building at 455 First Avenue in advance of the project's presentation to the NYC Public Design Commission. And so I think with that, we will cede the floor.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, are you all seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for making time for us tonight. I'm Melissa Sarko from NEAD Architects, and I'm here tonight on behalf of our project team to provide updates on Innovation East, a new life science building at 455 First Avenue. We recently submitted our preliminary approval package to the Public Design Commission and wanted to share our schematic design progress to this group. So tonight I'll provide a brief overview of the project, and but we'll primarily be focusing on those design updates. As a reminder, though, these are our project partners at NYC EDC. Innovation East obviously is part of EDC's larger life science initiative in New York City. Sorry, I'm having a technical issue on my end.
Can you just repeat your affiliation?
Sure. I'm Melissa Sarko with NEAD Architects. I'm the architect representing the project team tonight. I'm also joined by Margot Peterson and John Rappaport, who are from Taconic Partners and Divco West, who represent the development team. So they are two of the strategic partners, Taconic Partners and their subsidiary Elevate Research Properties are experienced developers of commercial life science space in New York City, and Divco West are developers of leading life science ecosystems nationally, including in New York City. And then another project partner is the NYU Grossman School of Medicine, who will be an anchor tenant. EDC selected this group to develop a world-class commercial life science facility on this site in the First Avenue Health and Sciences corridor to complement the city's broader initiative to grow the life sciences in New York City. So Innovation East occupies a pivotal site in the First Avenue Health and Sciences corridor. It's located on First Avenue between 26th and 27th Streets. We largely have residential neighbors directly to the north, institutional neighbors along the First Avenue corridor, including Bellevue Hospital and the future Spark Complex. The site is bordered to the north by the 27th Street pedestrian way, and that terminates in Bellevue South Park, which is directly west of our site. The site currently contains the 14-story New York City Department of Health Public Laboratory, which the city is relocating to a new purpose-built facility in Harlem. The current facility was constructed in 1964 and is no longer suited to meet the needs of modern commercial life sciences. And these views show some of the existing conditions from First Avenue and 27th Street, including the extensive scaffolding that's been installed around the site for the better part of the past decade. Innovation East will advance the city's goals to grow the life sciences sector in New York City. It replaces the outmoded public health lab building. It delivers commercial life science space for companies in varying stages of development, as well as the NYU Grossman School of Medicine, who will be the anchor tenant. It fosters job training and creation, providing job opportunities to a range of individuals with differing levels of education and skills. It provides ground floor activation, specifically with a neighborhood-centered retail cafe and a life science multipurpose space. The ground floor was developed to prioritize activation and transparency. And as a reminder, the main building entry is mid-block on First Avenue. An additional building entrance is via the tenant bike lobby off of the pedestrian way. Loading docks are consolidated on Mount Carmel Place. The south corner features the 9,000 square foot life science multipurpose space that has flexible meeting, training, and gathering space. And a retail cafe is located at the north corner. Recently, we've updated it to include a corner entry that allows for access directly from First Avenue, in addition to 2 points of access from the pedestrian way. The life science buildings require specialized conditions. So this is will be a purpose-built life science building that incorporates the needs of life science tenants, which include enhanced building systems and specialized infrastructure that supports the lab environment, flexible floor plates that incorporate rigorous laboratory planning modules and minimum clear dimensions to support efficient laboratory planning. And those floor plates will be large enough to accommodate a variety of tenant sizes and configurations so that the life science companies can grow and stay in New York City. We're also designing Innovation East for sustainability, resiliency, and wellness. The project is on track to achieve LEED Gold certification and will include numerous energy efficiency measures, which include a fully electric central plant that incorporates air source heat pumps, high efficiency equipment, chilled beams, and demand control ventilation to minimize air changes. We're designing a high performance building envelope with an optimized window to wall ratio that incorporates daylighting strategies while limiting thermal transfer. And we're investigating opportunities to reduce the embodied carbon of the building by incorporating existing public health lab foundations into the new construction, along with the use of low carbon concrete. Stormwater will be collected and used for cooling tower makeup and landscape irrigation. All critical infrastructure will be located above the project design flood elevation for enhanced resiliency and to support research continuity. This is the stacking section shows the distribution of program space and mechanical space within the building, and also reflects the massing that we brought forward through the ULURP process. The red outline shows the ULURP envelope that we achieved through that process, which incorporated a maximum height of 270 feet. With more detailed selection and coordination of building systems through the schematic design process, we were able to reduce the building height by approximately 40 feet. We understand, that was sort of a shared priority for the project team to reduce the bulk of the building. And we were able to achieve that through the selection of a concrete structural system instead of steel. That allowed us to have shallower floor plates at each floor level. And then through additional schematic design coordination and selection of mechanical systems, including that commitment to chilled beam technology and location of vertical risers, we were able to reduce the ceiling plenum kind of in increments, but overall achieving a significant savings in height. We also set back the mechanical screen wall at the top of the building by approximately 11 feet on all sides, which minimizes its presence from all views in the surrounding neighborhood. So we believe that the height reduction and the screen wall adjustments will improve the building scale within the community and further reduce the incremental shadows on Bellevue South Park. The larger building obviously was studied through ULURP and was determined to have no significant adverse impacts on Bellevue South Park, but we understand this community board's commitment to protecting the park's viability, and that was top of mind as the design team as we refined our massing approach. We've also been developing a design that bridges between the institutional and residential neighborhood contexts. First Avenue is characterized by bulkier institutional buildings with a more modern expression. In contrast, multifamily residential buildings to the west tend to have warmer materials, punched windows, and more slender proportions. In previous conversations with this community board, we discussed design strategies that would reflect the unique mixed-use character of the neighborhood and would break down the scale of Innovation East without compromising programmatic flexibility. Our current design approach puts a modern, iconic facade at First Avenue and breaks down the scale of the west facade facing Bellevue South Park and the residential community to the west by responding to the proportions of the nearby buildings, including Kips Bay Court and Phipps Plaza. So just stepping back, this is a view of the previous rendering that we presented during our ULURP process, looking south on First Avenue. At the time, we were carrying that additional building height and had not yet committed to a final massing strategy. This group has consistently challenged us to strengthen the design and massing to reflect the unique residential and mixed-use character of the neighborhood and to implement contextual human-scaled elements and materials. Our updated view of Innovation East builds on your recommendations and illustrates the following updates. The reduced building height and setback mechanical screen successfully minimized the bulk of the building. The building massing is now broken down to emphasize a cubic volume at First Avenue, floating above a transparent ground floor. The cube features two-story modules with extended frames that have slight variations, which will capture subtle changes in light and shadow throughout the day. This facade element will provide a strong identity to Innovation East along the First Avenue Health and Sciences corridor. A new facade type was developed at the west portion of the building, featuring a vertical expression and a warmer tone. This facade system wraps over the top of the building, interlocking the cubic volume. The two facade systems are shifted slightly in plane and are further separated by a reveal zone to emphasize the massing articulation without compromising the flexibility of the floor plate planning. Here's a view from the opposite side, looking north on First Avenue, and it highlights the prominence of that First Avenue cubic volume and the compatibility and scale with some of the adjacent buildings, including the NYU nursing school, which is in the foreground. You also challenged us to develop an activated, beautified, and well-lit pedestrian experience on Mount Carmel Place. This view shows some of the recent design modifications to the Innovation East facade that faces the park and the residential community surrounding it. In particular, this view illustrates the warmer tones and vertical orientation of the west wall system, which incorporates a fluted metal panel that adds texture and scale, which is appropriate to a residential neighborhood. We further broke down the bulk of the west facade into proportions that are compatible with the surrounding residential buildings by carving out a vertical recess with a change in material and texture. This move includes an additional setback at the upper mechanical floor at the top of the building, capped by a pergola that adds texture and some shadow at the mechanical screen wall. The loading dock and second floor mechanical louvers are well organized within the west facade and anchor it in a symmetrical expression. And we've incorporated at the base of the building surrounding the loading dock some stone panels that frame the loading dock doors and will be grazed by light from wall-mounted fixtures that will provide a soft illumination for enhanced nighttime safety and visibility. An updated view of the Mount Carmel Place and 27th Street corner of the building highlights the facade revisions at the west side of the building. So that includes those fluted metal panels that terminate in stone panels at the ground floor, anchoring the building to the site. The warmer tones and the smaller scale openings relate to the residential character of the community while maintaining transparency. The loading docks are fully integrated into the building design, and there's enough space within the building footprint for trucks to offload materials, which maximizes the time that loading dock doors can be closed. New street trees are proposed to be added along Mount Carmel near the 27th Street pedestrian way, and some of the more mature trees that are on 27th Street will be protected and maintained through the construction process. But many of these other views around the project perimeter are similar to the last series of images that we reviewed with the community board. This view at 27th Street and First Avenue highlights the transparency and activation along the pedestrian way. This is a view of the retail cafe at the corner, and it shows the new kind of corner entry that we've incorporated, which allows for more access points both from First Avenue and along 27th Street. This view at First Avenue highlights the main entrance to Innovation East. As a reminder, in order to maintain a consistent interior elevation with at-grade access on both 26th and 27th Streets, the main entry along First Avenue is raised about 2 feet above First Avenue and incorporates shallow stairs and gentle ramps that are framed by planters. Small updates to this view include some changes and refinements that we made to the entry sequence, including stone cladding at the planters and the native plantings that were selected. So they reflect a more developed landscape and site design. This view from 26th Street highlights the dedicated entrance to the 9,000 square foot multi-purpose space and shows the extent of transparency, which will provide opportunities to put science on display. The view also shows the impact of additional space that's available now to pedestrians without the encroachment of the existing public health lab building, which promotes a strong pedestrian connection across First Avenue to the Spark project. So through the process, we've refined our material palette, and this is part of our submission to the Public Design Commission. The upper floors of the project consist of a unitized energy efficient curtain wall, but we've broken it now into kind of 3 distinct types of systems that provide scale and visual interest. The First Avenue facade has an articulated 2-story expression with extended frames in an anodized or a bright metal finish, responding to the institutional context along First Avenue. The west facade, which wraps across the top, has that fluted vertical expression and a warmer champagne metal finish. And the reveal zone between them, which kind of extends across the top and then down vertically between the 2 systems, is a sort of a more simple flat glass system with structural glazing and darker mullions that provide contrast between the 2 more articulated systems. The ground floor storefront zone is, again, similar to what you've seen previously. It has larger scale storefront glazing at the base of the building. We've incorporated a horizontal louver grill above that for air intake and exhaust out of the lobby areas. And we've also incorporated a granite water course kind of around the perimeter of the building that mitigates some of the changes in site elevation and is carried into the site planters that frame the entrance. So as noted, we recently submitted a package to the PDC to initiate a preliminary design review and anticipate being on the agenda for a June 23rd hearing. We'll circulate the full PDC design submission in the format requested by PDC separately for your records. And so, with that, we just wanted to thank you for the input provided to date. It's been a valuable dialogue and has resulted in a stronger design solution that we truly believe balances the technical requirements of a modern commercial laboratory building with the pedestrian and human scaled needs of this unique mixed use neighborhood. And so with that, we're available to answer any questions.
Thank you, Melissa. I think this was a terrific presentation. We've been involved back and forth on this project for 15 months now, and it is just really wonderful to see that you guys have accommodated our feedback in several different ways. And I want to express, my gratitude for that. To see it here is really rewarding. I have a very quick question, because one of the things I appreciate about this, the aesthetics are not monotonous, and I was just curious, what is the window to wall optimization ratio?
It's just balancing areas of transparency with opacity. So you're going to get better thermal performance when you have like a spandrel or a solid condition. You can add additional insulation. So in terms of like optimizing that ratio, we want to make sure that we are providing enough glazing so that you can benefit from daylight, which has lots of benefits, including, lowering the need for artificial lighting. But you don't want to have a all glass facade anymore, because you really want to try to increase your thermal capacity where possible.
Okay, terrific. So a number of questions here. So I'm just gonna go in the order I saw them in. So we're gonna start with Jim.
Hi, Melissa. My question is, on your west facade, there's like a notch on the top of the building. Is that transparent, the material on the top right there?
It is.
It's transparent, so it'll allow sunlight into the park.
Yes, it's actually not. It's think of it like a trellis, like a pergola. So there'll be members that that hold up a frame, but it's open to the light and air and weather.
So the sun can come through.
That's right.
Fine.
Okay, terrific, man. Tanya?
Melissa, I just want to thank you and congratulate you on a beautiful design. I really mean it.
Thank
For
you.
something that is going to be an institution, it really goes above and beyond in terms of the aesthetics. And thank you for listening to our concerns. I, as opposed to just a big block of glass, you've made it into a really beautiful design. So I congratulate you. Very pleased.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna go to Larry online real quick.
Hi, I'd like to ask you about the HVAC system. You're
Sure.
now far enough along to describe them?
Sure. I'm not a mechanical engineer by trade, so I will do my best. The building uses, well, first of all, it starts with an electric air source heat pump system. So, in previous years, people would use like boilers, for example, to heat the building. So air source heat pumps are a very efficient way to heat and cool air in a building. They still rely on air handling systems that that temper the air and then move it through the building. So, it's not unlike other buildings. At the top of the building, we'll have an array of, actually, let me go to the mechanical section. I can point it out a bit better. We'll still have at the top of the building an array of the air source heat pumps. We'll have at the large mechanical floor at the top will be all of the air handling units. So there'll be a number of them that are all kind of connected together, and that's what moves air through the building vertically. Once it gets to each individual floor, we're using largely to temper the space a chilled beam system, which is an efficient way to cool air at the point where it's needed rather than cooling it sort of centrally at the top of the building and then losing that efficiency. And so some of the energy efficiency measures we were able to obtain were based on that chilled beam system, which minimizes the amount of air that you need to move through the building, and incorporating a demand control ventilation system, which allows you to kind of, typically with lab buildings, there's a lot of air changes required by code, but this type of system monitors the air quality and allows you to kind of reduce the number of air changes where you're just flushing the building if you don't need it, and really kind of responds to, changes in oxygen levels or other systems in the building that allow you to minimize bringing in either, hot air or cold air and needing to temper it.
So you have the flexibility with respect to producing a positive air pressure because these are laboratory conditions?
Yes, there are, the building incorporates dedicated exhaust systems. So for all, fume hood conditions, there's dedicated exhaust risers and dispersion fans at the top of the building that will maintain that pressure to keep all of the building occupants safe from any chemical use.
Well, there's also, you showed us exhaust system at the ground level.
The ground level mechanical room is primarily for, maybe entirely for the Con Ed vaults. So as we mentioned, we're designing the building to be resilient to flood conditions. So rather than having Con Ed vaults that are buried in the sidewalk, which is often where they're located, we've had to take them out of the ground and put them elevated in the building because the ground floor has a lot of other priorities and pressures. We've moved them up to the second floor. So that's where the main kind of switch gear for the building and the electrical vaults will be located. They need those louvers just so that air can flow through them and they can breathe. There's not any exhaust that's happening at that level.
Okay, my concern was that NYU has a medical building at I think 280 East 38th Street. The back of that building has an area for people to sit at tables, but above those tables is a very powerful exhaust system, makes it impossible to sit there. So if that's possibly a consideration in the seating areas that you have on the outside, I'll call your attention to it before you build it.
Okay, yeah, that's good feedback. I don't believe we have any areas that would be like disruptive intakes or exhausts along that facade, but we'll confirm it and take that into mind as we advance the design.
Thank you.
James.
Hi, Melissa. First, I want to commend you on lowering the floor to floor heights. That is a really impressive number. I know what kind of work goes into having to do that. So thank you. My question is going to seem really minor, and you probably will take care of it during the CD process, but could you put up the typical floor plan for me?
I don't know that we have one in this
Or any
deck.
portion? Well, either way.
I mean, I've got the ground floor plan. Does that help?
No, so with the lab floors, being work areas and being that the second floor is pretty close to street level. I still have experienced those areas right along the curtain wall end up getting very messy, filled with boxes and papers and things like that. So, we typically would see some sort of fritting or something along that lower band to hide those things.
Yeah, it's a real concern. We like to believe that everybody will keep their workspaces neat and tidy, but yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head what our sill height is. But that is definitely something that we've been mindful of, and I think your suggestion is a good one. So we'll take that into consideration as well.
Okay, so I don't see any more questions from the committee itself, so we're gonna go to the.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you very much for the presentation. And it is my first time to listen to the presentation of this project. And I'm not very sure if you have included the information before, but I have a couple of questions. The first one is that after you adopt the new structural system, is the clear height of each floor compromised or it is still remain the same?
The clear height remains the same. So we switched from a steel beam building, which has deeper beams kind of intermittently, to a flat plate concrete system, which is just narrower in general. So we were able to save the height purely within that structural system, because even with the deep beams, then you have to push all your mechanicals below that. So we did not compromise the ceiling heights or the space within the building. It was, mostly it came out of the structural system.
Oh, okay, and the current concrete system is also eligible for you to fit in all the AC unit facilities, right?
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
that's a critical component to this building being successful. So it's something that we had our eye on.
Okay, and my thank you. And my second question is that do you have the ADA? Did you consider the ADA facilities at the two entrances? Do you have the
Yes.
ADA design at the entrance?
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting that the building site slopes about 8 feet from the northwest corner to the southeast corner. So we really studied very carefully kind of how you enter the building and how you can be connected once you're in it. So we were able to get points of entry along all of these. Wherever there's a triangle is a access directly off the sidewalk. The place where we had to compromise was at the First Avenue entrance, and we have both the stairs and these ramps that kind of all lead you to the same place and provide an equitable experience to anyone who might be entering the building. So we've considered the accessibility. The only exit and entry point that doesn't have an at-grade access point is this one, which is more of a secondary kind of convenience access and emergency egress access from the retail cafe.
Yes, because from the image of the 27th floor entrance, and it seems to me that the ground level of the building is has the same height of the sidewalk. Is it correct?
Sorry, from which side?
The 27th floor, the 27th street entrance. It looks like the ground floor of the building has the same height as the street outside. And
Yeah, so
remember you have an image of the 27th street entrance, and from that image.
from 27th Street. Yeah, so this corner is at grade. So both of these entry points come in directly along the sidewalk elevation. 27th Street starts ramping up from that point. So the second entry to the retail cafe, which is down here, comes in higher than the floor elevation, and then you do have to step down into the retail cafe. And the tenant entrance on this side also comes in higher, and then there's an internal ramp within the building that brings you back down to the same kind of ground floor elevation. There's a ramp that's incorporated here that allow people to get back down to this elevation. It was a tricky situation, but yeah, we looked at all those sidewalk elevations to make sure we could get people in at the right location.
Thank you. And my last question is that understanding is that you need to demolish the current building of the site. Is that correct? And have you developed a timeline to demolish the current building? And have you had the environmental protection plan already?
Yeah, I might let Margot, do you want to field that one? I know the timeline is constrained by the PHL building moving to Harlem and occupying that site.
It's a good question. Right now it looks like the public health lab won't be in the DOHMH will not be fully vacated until likely end of 2026. We've been working very closely with DOHMH and the EDC team. We're going to likely onboard a construction manager at the end of this year. potentially early 2027, just given timing. And once we onboard a construction manager, we'll be able to work through logistics, the construction plan, the demo. But all that being said, the demo will likely start at the beginning of 2027, once DOHMH is out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Joyce. I see another question on the floor.
Hi, Chris. Sorry. Thank you for the presentation. I may have missed it. Can you recap how many individual seating and how much linear seating we have? And whether you've considered embedded seating in those planters on First Avenue?
Seating, are you talking about outside or inside?
Yes, outside.
Right now, the outdoor seating is in the form of, could be in the form of tables and chairs that would be associated with the retail cafe. I think it would be kind of in combination with the retail cafe tenant to determine their seating needs and requirements. And, what we've shown here, is a small amount, but there could be additional, I'm assuming, if there was demand for them.
Got it. Is there no embedded seating in the exterior, not even the planters on First Avenue?
There wasn't like intentionally. I think we could look at the planter height. It's conceivable that they are at seat height, but they weren't designed to double as benches. They're fairly narrow, so I think we were initially just trying to maximize the space for soil and plantings.
Got it. Okay, thank you for the update. I know this project came a long way since we first saw it a year and a half or more ago. So thank you for all the progress. Having more embedded seating, I think, would be fantastic. That area really lacks it. And yeah, just so it's not left out to whenever the cafe is open, if folks want to rest.
All right, so seeing no further questions. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Margot. I'm really looking forward to welcoming this building to the neighborhood, and we are gonna move on to our next.
Can you
Sorry,
send
Gabe,
the,
this is Gigi from EDC. If I just may have a moment to give a project related update, if that's okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Gigi Lee from EDC's Government and Community Relations team. So as part of both the Innovation East and Spark ULURP points of agreement, there was a commitment for DCP to meet with CB6 and work with CB6 on a housing plan, which was voted on and approved. So several weeks ago, CB6 leadership did meet with members of the Department of City Planning, as well as staff from both Councilmember Rivera, as well as Councilmember Powers' office. I think that afterwards, both Katie Loeb, who is Councilmember Rivera's chief of staff, as well as Sandy, reached out to EDC and said that that meeting did not go as well as they would have liked. So just want to report that EDC and DCP are regrouping. We understand the concerns that have been shared with us, and we after we meet, we will, in quick time, come back and present something that we think will be a little bit more acceptable to the community board. So wanted to let you guys know that we're aware, we're working on it, and we'll be back with you guys soon.
That's terrific, Gigi. Thank you for doing that and kind of honoring the ULURP. Jim and then Brendan.
Yeah, Gigi, just so you are aware, and I think we've raised this a number of times now. We are concerned that the construction between Innovation East and Spark will cause a bottleneck on First Avenue, particularly for emergency vehicles. So you can coordinate that construction so that there is a minimal bottleneck. I think we had already talked about one construction quarter overlapping the two projects. If that can be eliminated, that would be great. And secondly, I just wanted to make sure that we had a copy of that presentation deck sent into the office for our records.
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you.
And yeah, it'll be on the website tomorrow.
Cool, thanks.
Brendan.
Going back to the presentation, speaking of the presentation, going back to it, I was just refreshing my memory, realizing that one of the criteria for the PDC, Public Design Commission, is some evidence of engagement with the community board. So is like a resolution needed? Is this presentation sufficient? Just making sure that we're not missing anything.
Hi, it's Julie Hendricks-Atkins from Ghetto and Zemelli. I don't know, Gigi, did you want to take that or did you want me to?
Go right ahead. I think we're going to say the same thing.
Okay, so it's my understanding that as long as there are meeting minutes, that the presentation was provided and given, that a resolution is not necessary. Gigi, does that correspond with your? Okay, great. So I think the presentation and the meeting minutes will be sufficient to fill that requirement.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, we will now be moving on to agenda item number 2, the presentation from the New York City Department of Environmental Protection on what you can do to prevent flooding.
Hey, it's no worries. Good evening, everyone.
Take that empty chair and put it there. Okay.
Where do you want me to stand?
Yeah,
It's better word.
Somewhere close to the microphone.
You guys hear me? Perfect, okay. Well, good evening. Thank you so much, TV6, Brendan, of course, the chairs. I'm Marty Fatu. I am the Manhattan Borough Commissioner with the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. For those of you who do not know what DEP is and what we do, we are New York City's water, sewer, resiliency, noise enforcement agency. We do a lot more than that as well. We are a family of 6,000 employees. Our commissioner is Rit Agarwal. He's also the city's chief climate officer. So he wears 2 hats. We have approximately 3,000 employees here in New York City. We're the nation's largest municipal water utility. We also have a major presence upstate with our Delaware Aqueduct Reservoir, and then multiple, that's up in Kingston, New York, and then we have multiple reservoirs in Westchester and other parts of upstate New York. I don't want to get too into defining upstate, I'd be a little higher, but those reservoirs basically supply New York City's water. I know the previous presenter brought up champagne, so I'd say that we're the champagne of tap water. You get fancy here.
When is that gonna start coming out of the tap?
Sorry. No comment. Quickly though, as I said, back to our employment, we are a major employer upstate. At least, close to half of our employees are up at the watersheds, ensuring that New Yorkers have safe, fresh, clean drinking water. Here in Manhattan, we have a large operation as well. Our Bureau of Water and Sewer Operations work tirelessly to keep things moving, to keep the water flowing, of course, and to ensure that the sewers are not backed up. They're fixing fire hydrants, even though the fire department does, the firefighting. We're there as their support team to ensure those hydrants are operating. So to quickly get into things, the commissioner has asked for all the borough commissioners, just a little bit about myself. I'm fairly new to the agency. I have 6 months on the job. Before that, I was at the mayor's office in the Office of Asylum Seeker Operations. Before that, I was with our Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, where I got to work with the climate team on a multitude of things. So we'll get right into it. And then I will quickly move through this. So I know there's a lot on the agenda. If you have questions, if that's okay. So we have 3 types of flooding. We have stormwater, we have groundwater, and we have coastal. Next slide. I know it was a PDF. Assuming everyone here believes climate change is real, it's happening, it's here, right? NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, has reclassified our city as a humid subtropical climate. So, we see sudden powerful storms affecting the city, almost, all the time, right? And it's intense. We can kind of see the numbers here, right? So September 2021, we had Hurricane Ida, where we saw over 3.15 inches in an hour. And then, of course, Hurricane Henry, Hurricane Henry with 1.94 inches in an hour. And the storm that I worked on response for, the September 29th, 2023, we call it a severe weather incident. It wasn't classified as a hurricane, but we had 2.5 inches in an hour. So I don't know if you remember, there was a lot of flooding in Manhattan, but the bulk of it we saw in Park Slope in Brooklyn, out in Queens, East Elmhurst was hit really bad, as it was during Ida as well. And effects of the storms, right, can be made worse in coastal areas by sea level rise and tidal cycles. And that's something that we're going to get to in a little bit in terms of what we're doing on the East River to protect New Yorkers and make the city more resilient. Go to the next slide. Something that we see here a lot in Manhattan, specifically within Community Board 6, Midtown East, are sewer backups and overflows. You see that sometimes on the streets. We also have a lot of ponding here in New York City, especially in Midtown. Something that we're working on collectively with the New York City Department of Transportation, as well as the bids currently. 60% of our city has combined sewers that carry wastewater from your home and stormwater from rains. So during the rainstorms, the sewer system can get overwhelmed when the amount of water produced by the storm is greater than the capacity of the pipes, right? So we have these severe weather events, heavy rainfall, the system gets overwhelmed, right? And that's when we start seeing the overflows and the backups. One of the things that I'm happy that we're doing, and I do think it's going to improve the current situation with backups and overflows, is our Canal Street pump station, right? Not that close here, but will support a lot of the borough, and we'll be able to pump twice the amount of wastewater that we were already pumping, right? So that's a multi-million-dollar investment to the city, and we do believe that that's going to help the lives of everyday New Yorkers through this. Go to the next slide. So we'll start with groundwater flooding. Some areas of the city have naturally high groundwater. After a heavy rain or back-to-back rainstorms, the ground can become very saturated, right? We saw this yesterday and the day before. The water is going to seep to its own level. Seep to its own level, it will find and travel through cracks, basement foundation, or in floor drains. Has anyone ever experienced groundwater flooding in their homes?
In a friend's house, yeah.
Friends' houses. Not as much here, but sometimes in the basements of the buildings, of the tall
In the
residential
village.
buildings. In the villages, that's right.
During Hurricane Sandy.
Absolutely. The next slide. Who was here during Hurricane Sandy? Okay. So we all know about tidal coastal flooding. This can send tidal water back up into the sewer system, resulting in overflows from the manholes on the streets, catch basins, and basement connections. And tide gates keep ocean water out of the system during high tides or storm surge. So we're gonna get into tide gates as well. I'm really excited to share that we're gonna do an operational test for the public in just a matter of weeks, and I'll get that info over to you, Brendan. Right at the border of little south of us, close to Bellevue Hospital, we're gonna be demonstrating the floodgates that we've just installed, part of the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project. Next slide. All right, so hurricane season. This year, we actually think it's gonna come a little sooner, right? Anywhere between now and August, is where we're gonna see, when something big could actually happen. Really, I think, Commissioner Agarwal says it perfectly. We are in the new normal, right? It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we're going to have that next superstorm. It could be Sandy levels, it could be higher. And that's why the city for the last 13 years, 14 years has worked very hard and has, we've gotten a lot of funding in years past from the state, of course, from the federal partners. I know some of that's in limbo right now with the current administration, but in years past, we've been able to secure billions of dollars in federal funding and state funding to support and make the city more resilient with our projects throughout the city. All right, the city has a toolkit to combat flooding. Does anyone know what these are?
Yeah.
Floodgates. All right. So this is actually right around Astor Levy Pool, off the FDR. Essentially, the floodgates will be operationalized when the National Weather Service and our Office of Emergency Management give us that green light and say, hey, it's coming. Our Bureau of Water and Sewer Operations, likely they'll be coming from East 38th Street where our closest yard is. They're gonna come out. And just like they're doing there, that's actually the company that was installing them. They're going to close those gates, right? Through that, you'll get a notify NYC if you live in the affected area. City of New York, Department of Environmental Protection, we're gonna close the gates. And essentially, we're gonna protect a large part of the area with these gates. So the gates are actually they're actually higher than the sandy levels on the FDR, right? So we built these looking back on previous storms, on previous weather events, and ensuring that it's higher. We do hope that this protects Bellevue Hospital, right? Of course, all over Manhattan, but really Bellevue and the VA hospital are two sensitive locations. And, you know, as well as there's schools in the area. I think the United Nations International School is right down the street, right? We have kids. So there's gonna be multiple reinforced gates. So there's two in the area right here.
I think the UN schools.
Up to
On
three
the
a little,
other side.
okay.
On the other side.
There's like two gates though, yeah.
It sits over the river.
So sewers work in every rainstorm and protect fully against 98% of rain events. Of course, that 2% always gets us, right? The sewer network is generally built to handle 1.5 to 1.75 inches of rain per hour. And as I mentioned before, during the rainstorms, system gets overwhelmed. It's going to happen. That's why we're, you know, continuing to try to pump more water, more off, right, with, you know, upgrades, things like that. But sometimes it's just above the capacity. On our capital plan, though, it's that 8.2 billion we were talking about, right? So that's already underway construction. The heavy duty construction began for that Canal Street upgrade, I think like 4 or 5 weeks ago. I was actually down at the site, and they're on it. They're already working on it. And that's a $3.6 billion investment. Next slide. So another way that we're protecting New Yorkers from flood impacts is cloudburst programs, built-in storage, right? So porous concrete, right? You might see a schoolyard or something. We have the subsurface storage, and then the porous pavement systems under the ground, right? And that can store water. Next one.
Where does the water go?
Sorry?
Where does the water go when it's in those basins?
It stores, and then hopefully that goes into basically.
Does it like percolate into the groundwater?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Good question. Next slide, sorry. So does anybody know about the Unified Stormwater Rule, the SWIP? This is something new. In 2022, the agency increased the amount of stormwater new and redeveloped properties must manage on site. That's actually now a required inspection or permit application. You have to apply for SWIP on a big development, right? So, and even before you get a DOB inspection, you now have to come to our bureau, look at, you know, and like have us do a SWIP inspection, which is the stormwater rule. Rezonings and developments present a huge opportunity to manage stormwater. So like right here is something called a green roof, right? We can also store a lot and absorb a lot of water on green roofs. Most recently, something that we worked on at City Hall and with DEP a couple of years ago is the green roof tax abatement. So if I believe there was an abatement where you would have to have 50% of available roof for a green roof tax, you know, for a green roof and to receive the abatement. We went back up to Albany and we wanted to increase the participation in the program. So the legislature actually allowed us to do 25% instead of 50%. So more people could participate in the program because we want more green roofs, specifically, and especially in Manhattan.
Is this for new developments or even for existing buildings as well?
Existing as well, correct.
Okay,
So it's 20, but you have to have 25% available on your roof.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, my building could do that.
happy to follow up with you on
Yeah.
that. I think it's a great program. I'm really happy that we were able to
Yeah.
extend that, so we should definitely
I
talk.
should definitely talk, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so coastal resilience infrastructure. This picture actually, there's Councilmember Rivera, our executive director, and then our deputy commissioner for the Bureau of Coastal Resiliency. Her name is Lorian Farrell. Not making any recommendations. She'd be also someone great to come talk to the committee, especially given our increasing role in the resiliency projects. So again, here's more of the gates up here. And then we were part of the park opening, of course, for the ball fields over on 14th Street with East River Park a week or two ago. So, you know, DEP has played, I would say we're playing more of an increased role now with the gates and everything. But we've been involved with the design concept with DDC, right, as the leads, EDC, the Parks Department, of course, up near Sutton Place. You know, that whole new park up there, DEP's resiliency teams have played a huge role. One thing I think that's, you know, something worth noting is we're not always seen, you know, as one of the big agencies that are, you know, we're not the Parks Department, right? Parks Department, right? Like they're right out front and center. DVC is doing all the construction. We're doing all the underground work, right? The water has to continue to flow. We have to be more resilient, right? A lot of that is not right up in the, you know, right in front and center. We're in the shadows, we're underground. But we still participate and create and make critical contributions to almost every public realm project going on currently. And we do a ton of coastal work out in the Rockaways as well with the reinforced shorelines. There's the US Army Corps of Engineers projects, their harbor area tributary study. They're doing a ton out in the Rockaways as well, where we see, I mean, devastating storms, devastating to communities. So I wanted to highlight couple of the projects here, because a lot of the questions we've been getting from the public and from a lot of community boards is what's going to happen, you know, with BRIC and the different types of federal funding that may or may not be cut, right? We're waiting for that additional guidance from the federal government. I can't comment much further on that. But what I want to stress is let's go to ESCR, which is the East Side Coastal, the Brooklyn Manhattan Coastal Resiliency Project, Seaport, Battery, and Battery Park City. There's a lot of city capital funding involved in this as well. It's not just federal funding. And that's something I think that we are focusing on, right? We are trying to utilize as much as we can. And then, of course, we have state funding as well from the Department of Environmental Conservation. Of course, the Army Corps projects, not in Manhattan. We have work on Staten Island, the Rockaways, and Jamaica Bay. On the Hudson side, they're doing hats as well. All right, what you can do to protect your home from flooding. By the way, these are members of our Manhattan DEP team. They're out there all the time, so if you ever see them in their trucks or in their vests, always say hello. They're really good people. Next. All right, converted basements, sewer backups. So fixtures in the bathroom should not be located lower than the sewer connection. That can result in raw sewage coming up into the basement apartments. Stormwater flooding with basements located at the bottom of a driveway or below sidewalk level are prone to stormwater flooding and groundwater flooding. Not as relevant for here, I don't think, but safety always, anywhere. Exit routes are critical in the event of a flood. Biggest concern that we have for Manhattan around exit routes is bars on the windows, right? See that a lot in Kips Bay, kind of going up as well. I happened to be walking in the neighborhood and really saw that, and I was like, yeah, that could be, and it's tough, right? Because we have to be conscientious of public safety as well.
But the bathroom fixtures, the water of the bathroom, should go to the sanitary system, instead of the sewer system. So why do you have the requirements of the bathroom fixtures?
This is more for residential, right? Like for, for like single family homes. Like, what are you asking for the?
Yes, I mean, the water of the bathroom.
Yes.
Goes to the sanitary system, not the sewer system. But this is the flooding goes to the sewer system.
No, but if the water, so the water from the bathroom goes into the sewer system, but the sewer system can back up and that water can come back up through your toilet.
Okay.
That's like a sewage backup where you get the raw sewage.
I experienced this once in another city, in a basement apartment, it's not great.
It's, yeah.
When my friend's basement flooded, after clean it out, it was not a good idea. Ended up very sick.
My deputy commissioner, our deputy commissioner who leads our unit, she lives in Brooklyn and she has it almost every single storm. It's definitely an issue. Go ahead.
This might be a really stupid question. You can
Sure.
shut me down if it is. When we talk about, you know, when we have huge rainstorms in the city and we get these puddles and the water just sits there and it becomes, you know, fetid and all that. How much of that is just lack of capacity as opposed to just debris inside the sewage system? How often do we clean it? Can you answer that?
Absolutely. What I can answer is, you know, when we prepare for a storm, right? And then all the debris comes up. We spend close to $1 billion a year cleaning debris, litter, people putting things that they should not be putting in the system. In terms of a big storm or, you know, when we expect to get a lot of rain, like this past weekend, BWSO, our water and sewer operations, they'll go out there, every borough, they're cleaning and checking the catch basins.
Okay.
That's like a really important preventative measure that we do on any sort of time when we know there's gonna be a lot of rain coming in, not just for like superstorms. Something just like this weekend, right, where those backups could happen, but you know, again, we encourage the public, do not put stuff besides. Yeah, into the system. It's, I mean, it's our money that can be used for different things, right? But that's where, you know, we spend again, almost nearly $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Yes. Go ahead.
When you plan to close the storm,
The gates.
storage?
Yeah.
What kind of warning will there be for people that may be on the other side of the gate, closest to the river? Are you doing some kind of evacuation plan before that, or?
It's a really good question. So Notify NYC, who has Notify NYC? I'm gonna send you a QR so that you can send out to everyone that doesn't have it.
Terrific.
All right.
And we can put
Do you have like a public address system or
So,
something?
yeah, so we have a public address system, Notify NY, so DEP will notify NYC that we're gonna do it, right? That we're gonna close it. Notify NYCs will go out and then you'll get a phone alert as well.
Right.
That's the plan. If you live in the area,
What are you
but
talking about what about the grandmas with the flip phones? You know?
it's a really good question. The conversation around door to door, yes, absolutely, it needs to happen. But I can only speak for the Notify side of it.
Homeless guy that doesn't have a phone.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, it's a really good point, and it's something that I flagged it, we've been speaking to VCR about it. I think that, on the Notify side, there's a good understanding of what we're gonna do, but I think the door-to-door notifications are definitely gonna be critical to this, because not everyone has an iPhone, not everyone has an Android.
Well, you might wanna have the NYPD, you know, go up and down the river at the affected areas and say, you know, exit the area now because we're sure they've got speakers on.
There's gonna be speakers, right, and it'll be a joint effort, right, NYPD, the fire department, you know, DHS, you know, has a team, like a rapid response team for the unhoused community. When something this big is set to happen, I can't speak specifically to plans, but I'm happy to follow up with you in terms of what that is. It's a really good question, and I appreciate you asking. Yeah.
I've walked by them on Stuyvesant Cove. Are there other, I mean, from 16th to 23rd Street, are there others beyond that? That's it at the moment. I think.
They're gonna put in a few more at 14th Street. I need to get more info if they have others, in the planning. I mean, listen, I think they're trying to do more resiliency work throughout the entire borough. I think we're trying to, you know, there's a Harlem plan, that's still in the design phase, right? There's other parts of the city, specifically in Manhattan, around the waterfront that we're trying to do, and every one of those projects would include gates.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
have to clear the area, it's only 7 blocks of that area, I mean. I
Well,
guess it's about.
I think we're gonna finish the presentation before we
okay.
open the floor, okay?
Sure,
Sorry,
sure, with that.
sorry.
Skip that, actually, I wanna go down to, yeah, so flood sensors are really important. And elevating your belongings, so, you know, if you do live in a basement unit, or you have, you know, a lot of residential buildings and. You know, in the CB, you know, you have storage in the basements of your apartment buildings, make sure it's elevated a bit, right? Cause that's where we're gonna see a lot of the water is in your basement. Flood sensors are also really helpful, and those alert us when water is entering the basement. The pro tip is to place the sensor on the floor, near the sewer drain or under windows if you have outdoor window wells. Sump pumps, does anyone know what a sump pump is?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, use them. Alright, this is my favorite part of the presentation because planning is everything, right? NFIP, National Flood Insurance Program, we have it for owners and renters. There's also a website, and Brendan, I'll send this to you following the presentation as well. It's called Flood Help NYC. Flood Help New York is a free service through the mayor's office, NISM, Center for New York City Neighborhoods, where you can basically put in your address, your apartment, your home, and you can see approved insurance companies and plans that the city has reviewed and find suitable for New York City residents, because there's a real predatory industry out there. I think we all know about that.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, we take into consideration. The other thing too is we also went to Albany and got something passed, a Disclosure Act passed for New York City home buyers and home renters. Where essentially if you were to go buy a home or rent a home, the landlord or the previous owner has to disclose any sort of history of flood damage to that prospective home buyer or home renter. And that was carried by, of course, the mayor and Assemblyman Bobby Carroll. And then Senator Hoylman Siegel on the Senate side brought it through, was signed by the governor. All right. Know your evacuation zone. So the best way to be prepared for the possibility of a hurricane evac is to know your evacuation zone, plan your destination travel routes ahead of time. City officials will tell you when to evacuate through the media and direct warnings like by NYC. In terms of the media, right, we have all types of different types of media. You know, no one knows, like sometimes it's very confusing as to, things can get confused, right? Things can be confusing, especially when catastrophic events are happening or they're about to happen, right? There's a lot of hysteria going on. The smartphone, I know a lot of people do have smartphones, a lot of people don't. Any sort of weather alert or something will come directly to your phone, and that's through the National Weather Service. All of our weather alerts that are coming from the city of New York, whether you're getting it from NISM, Office of Emergency Management, Notify NYC, same thing, Police Department, Fire Department, that's all coming through the NWS. They get on a call with the city and they give us all of the information on a call, and then we send it out to the public. NWS goes right through your smartphone. You'll see that. And they'll also have the information for your evac zone. Next slide. All right, so again, this is the QR code if you want to sign up for Notify New York City. Again, highly recommend it. And they have everything, like you can actually click to do, you know, see events that are going on in your area, street closures, parking. And then of course, you know, catastrophic events, any sort of major public safety threats as well. All right. And then, yeah, just quickly, we've done a lot of capital projects in the area in the past. Currently, we're doing a big city water main installation improvement at East 14th and 5th, so kind of coming up this way. But at this point, there's no additional capital besides, of course, our baby, the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project. All right, we'll take questions in a second, and then just really quick, if we could go down one more. Nope, after questions. Yep, so we're here to help, right? Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn at NYC Water. If you have a complaint, right? Noise coming from a building or construction site, we enforce that. That's the DEP noise code. NYPD, if it's neighbor to neighbor. But you know, if there's a bar, or restaurant or venue where you're hearing noise that you think is too loud over the sound code, or you know, active construction site where they're working after hours, that goes to 311. It gets routed directly to us. Of course, I want you to contact our Manhattan team as well. So I'll give out cards to the board members. Manhattan DEP at dep.nyc.gov. I get those directly. Humberto, who I think a lot of you may know as well. He's our community relations coordinator.
All the time.
Big fan of yours. And our director of field ops, John Castiglione. He leads our hundreds of DEP PWSO employees that you see out there every day to getting the work done. So again, I really appreciate the opportunity to come speak with you, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
So I'll get it started. I mean, first of all, thank you. That was really informative and really fascinating. I have a million questions, but in the interest of time, I'll keep it to one.
Can I grab my notebook just for follow-up?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, all right. And again, I apologize. I'm still really new, so there's a lot of stuff I'll have to follow up with you on.
Oh, no, totally fine. With respect to permeable materials, I think this is really fascinating. It's something we've been kind of studying as a river facing community district. What's the current status of material science? What are materials that can be brought up to code and be permeable? Like you can do sidewalks? Can you do street paving? Like, is it just capital and time that's preventing all of these things from being replaced slowly? But like, are the materials there in terms of the design?
Are you talking more about projects or like little things?
Well, a little thing like, can we make these sidewalks ultimately in some future state permeable?
I think that's the route that we want to go. In terms of right now, I don't know. But I can take that back.
Get
But
rid
yeah,
of the blacktop.
But ultimately, yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
get rid of the blacktop. Find something
Like the
better.
splash pad in the playground.
like the splash pads in the playground, okay. Alec,
right.
So I've noticed that bioswales are a pretty popular mechanism to controlling stormwater in some places that aren't as heavily, I guess that don't have as much sewer infrastructure as we do here in Manhattan. I've seen in places like the industrial parts of Flushing, for example. A street tree was recently installed on my block about a year ago, and I was surprised that there wasn't a bioswale there as well. It seems like a perfect opportunity for DEP to work with parks to ensure that all street trees going forward can implement this as a floodwater prevention measure, stormwater, I guess, prevention measure. Seems low cost, and if Parks is gonna install the free trees throughout parts of Manhattan and the rest of the city, we want to be implemented there as well.
I can actually add some more. As part of the ESCR, we were promised bioswales throughout the district, and apparently, they're being done by parks, not DEP.
Correct. I mean, especially if it's with green and like in Manhattan, we don't oversee the green infrastructure. Other boroughs we do, but it is the Parks Department lead on any sort of public planting. With that being said, if you give me the locations, I have heard that as well. You're not wrong. The ESCR, and then if you give me your address, I'm happy to check in with Parks and maybe try to get an idea of where they currently are at with bioswales and incorporating that in their plan. You did bring up a really good point, and I know we're a little tough on time. The urban forestry master plan, has anyone heard about that? Absolutely. So that's also something I was asked to share as well on behalf of the mayor's office. They wanted to make sure people are filling out the survey. Brennan, do you have the survey? You already have it?
Yes, and you can
Okay.
advertise it in our
Awesome.
e-blast
Awesome.
newsletters.
Yeah, and that really allows the public, you to tell, the city, to tell the parks for where we need to plant more trees. And then also, this would be a good opportunity for, flood mitigation as well and resiliency. Right. Okay.
Okay, we're gonna go to Maya and then Larry real quick and then James.
The urban forest was my question, but I am curious about if you guys are working with them on like how to create like an expansive, because having like the one plot for a tree is great, but to have a lot of the water to go back into the ground, you need more soil space. So if you guys are looking into that, and I know like Andy's
Where exactly? like just everywhere? or-
Yeah, I mean, like that would be ideal, but Sandy's mentioned that we've been told by SCV6 that we don't have a lot of space to be included into this. And so, but as a community, this is also, I have another question about like the flood walls. I don't think that we're already building them, it's great, and I do think they're good for like an emergency situation, but for longevity, I don't think that's like, it's the best option, because it pushes things elsewhere, but that's where like the urban forest can be good about, like if we put something bigger in Harlem or whatever, be a nice park most of the time, but then it also helps like absorb water instead of that coming downhill into CB6.
Again, I think you raised good points, around the urban forestry stuff. As for the flood walls, we have to prioritize public safety.
I agree.
And, yeah, but at the same time, valid point. And
Yeah,
I'm
I would
happy
like
to, yeah, go ahead.
I would like to see, in addition with the flood walls, a lot of alternative options that we can use, like putting better like plant life into the water and ways to mitigate like current and storm surge instead of just focusing on flood walls as like our primary.
We'll definitely follow up with you because we'd love to get your ideas. All right?
Okay, just two more questions. Larry?
Regarding old school emergency notifications, the FCC still requires television stations to have an emergency notification on a regular basis. Does DEP have any relationship with the broadcast media in order to alert the public as well?
Absolutely. It's a really good question, Larry. So, and you're right about the like media having to broadcast that. DEP is part of the city of New York, so that all the emergency communications on something this big is gonna come directly from City Hall, directly from the police commissioner, and directly from emergency management. And our communications will go through one of those three entities, and it's likely going to be emergency management. Our press people work with the rest of the responding agencies, press folks, and it's a unified message. One thing to be clear about, I know we talk about it a lot, DEP is not the EPA. We're not a federal agency and we're not DEC. We're part of the city of New York. And given that, it streamlined the communications. That's the goal, right? I think a lot of times when, these types of emergencies do happen, things are not streamlined. But I can tell you that our people are working every day with folks from other agencies to ensure that the messaging is streamlined, it's coming from one place.
So if I understand from that long
So we'll look me on
answer,
Twitter. Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead.
from that long answer, if there's a nuclear attack, we'll hear from the feds, but we won't hear about a hurricane that's going to hit us.
No.
That's what he said.
On
Sorry?
the TV station, on the emergency warning.
So anything that we put out is going to be coordinated with the rest of the city agencies. And in terms of like, we will be tweeting stuff out, right? We will be in the media as well, but it's gonna be coordinated, right? So like when we go to close a floodgate, right? When we go and operationalize that, it's gonna be done through our team. It's gonna be communicated to the residents. But then you might see a tweet or a message from New York City Emergency Management or the fire commissioner or from us saying, this is what we're doing. We're closing this gate affecting residents at X, Y, and Z intersections. Just an example. But I'm definitely happy to go back to the team and see what we can share additionally about emergency plans. But there is a city agency that coordinates all of that, and that's our OEM.
Okay, we're gonna take a quick.
I hope there's no nuclear attacks. Let's serious too.
You touched briefly on the, I guess, increased capacity requirements for rooftop detention. For rainwater.
The
blue roof.
Green roof.
Oh, but roofs had to retain more water, not just about green roofs, but rooftop detention.
Correct.
That's increased.
SWIP, yeah.
What's the criteria there? Could you expand on that a little bit? Because there's a big cost that goes to building owners or new building construction in terms of beefing up their structure for that.
I'm happy to follow up with you on the exact requirements.
Okay.
How big is your building?
I don't know the building, but I.
Okay, I think it depends, it depends on the size of the building, the amount of housing stock, the amount. There's a lot of things that go into it, and so it's not as specific.
And also the new versus renovation.
Correct.
What's the criteria there that has that come into play?
Okay, real quick.
I have a very quick
Sure.
question. How long does it take to install the toolkit, like the one at the acid levy, and does it have the installation time, like how long it will last there?
In terms of like the longevity of the device itself,
Yeah.
it's a good question. If it's maintained on a regular basis, right, we keep it up. The last decades, right? But that's if we continue to maintain it well, make upgrades to it. We might switch certain things out, but those are gonna stay here for a long time.
How long did it take you to install them?
Longer than I think it should have taken. But that's just me. It's just a few years. But, a lot goes into it, right? There's permitting, even on the city, like public realm work, right? There's permitting that has to be done. Of course, contractor does the work. And DDC, the Department of Design and Construction, they had jurisdiction over, they had jurisdiction over the installations. And then now DEP is taking that over. We got it handed off to us. We did it for the operational aspect of it. So it'll be our crews actually opening close to the gates.
Okay.
I know it's confusing, sounds bureaucratic, but
This was a terrific presentation. I think you could probably look forward to some emails.
yeah, I'm gonna give everyone my card and I have some follow-up. SWIP, urban forest,
Roof.
green.
Don't worry, I'm giving you my card. You have it. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank
you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, now, so moving on, everyone, to what I suspect is the main event tonight, looking out in the room. Discussion of the draft resolution commenting on the proposed scope of work for the environmental review of the Freedom Plaza Casino project. I want to just make just a note real quick. So this is just about the draft environmental impact statement. So this community board is on record opposing this casino. But what we are discussing tonight is the technical aspects of what we will be asking the state gaming board, or sorry, the developer to study in the scope of work in the environmental impact statement. So in that vein, I do ask that any questions be kind of pursuant to the environmental impact statement and not to the issue of the casino more broadly. Okay, with that, I think we have a resolution to vote on, and this resolution is really just going to give us the permission to put in our comments. So the first thing we're going to do is discuss the comments very quickly. Now, I know Alec, yours are in here, right? I think. Do we know these? Alex,
I sent it over. I sent it yesterday.
I have the comments. Is this what we're talking about? We go one by one?
I think,
This is the resolution.
oh, yeah, so,
We're doing.
no, the reso is, I think we don't, I don't anticipate any changes to the reso. I just want,
Right.
Or more specifically, the
make sure the comments are,
testimony.
the testimony, I'm sorry, the testimony, yes.
Okay.
And
Explain, we've already given testimony.
yes, oh, sorry, yes, and I also gave a verbal testimony about 2 weeks ago. And this is basically a fleshed out version of that testimony in a little more detail in written form. And what we're going to be discussing tonight, or at least voting on tonight, is the final version of the written testimony, which again is just a fuller, more fleshed out version of our verbal testimony. With that, I think we're going to hear, and the committee has been given the opportunity to read this beforehand, so I want to make sure anyone on the committee who has any questions or proposed amendments can speak. Yes.
Scroll up.
Where yours were, and we'll get to the members of the public.
You explained, you just answer the fight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So The State Gaming, Commission.
The portal this yesterday.
Okay,
I can forward it.
I just want to make sure they're merged. Yeah. Okay, Tanya.
I only have one thing on the transportation section, which I would like to somehow in there include the fact that to study how this increased traffic that is going to result from if they do put in this casino, how this negates the congestion pricing initiative that, you know, the city has been so intent on reducing traffic in that area, and then all of a sudden we're getting increased traffic, so
I mean,
how can we add it on to there?
I mean, I
If
think that's
necessary.
fair.
if not.
I guess I think that's very fair, but I would challenge that we did ask them to broadly expand how they're studying the traffic, what they proposed in the original DSOW. Basically totally inadequate, and we asked them to
Right.
scale it up considerably. So I think that is addressed.
Okay,
Traffic impacts.
all right.
Okay, and then we're,
Can you scroll down, Brandon? Just want to see if mine are here.
Scroll down to.
or which task?
Just go down, like, go a little bit down to see task one. I didn't put anything in text, I just put them in comments. I just emailed you my comments just now.
What's the comment?
Probably should have put them in text.
No, that's okay. This is, all been something we've really pulled together very quickly. It, kind of felt like finals. So if you want to just very briefly, Alec, while we take a look and Brendan's gonna look at the email, just kind of, expound on your
So a
points.
high level summary of my comments were, one, I asked that an additional action that they pursue is to map MIH on the site. Currently, there is no legal or land use mechanism in place that codifies affordable housing to be developed on the site. So the developer has said that they're gonna build 513 affordable units. There's nothing in place that that binds them to that commitment. They could always just pursue a fully market rate unit in the future. That way, if we ask that they map MIH, in addition to pursuing this action, that they are forced in the future to include affordable housing.
MIH is mandatory inclusionary housing.
There will be a quiz.
Because the EIS and the tech memos for this project were completed before it was required to map MIH as part of a rezoning. Another comment that I had included here was that we would like two things. One, a revised, what's called technical memorandum. Essentially, it's an update to the EIS that was completed previously. In my comment, I said that there have been 4 different versions of the secret technical manual that have been published since this EIS was completed. And I know from experience that there have been a lot of changes to the secret technical manual since 2008. They actually used the secret tech manual from 2001, which was the most recent one at the time. So I asked that a tech memo be completed so that way they can essentially redo the analyses that they had previously completed. So that way they have a new base level of program of the entitled development, as they're calling it. That way they can compare that to the future project. And then my additional comment to the project description was that I asked that in addition to the entitled development no action scenario, that they also analyze a no action scenario that is the same as the existing conditions, so essentially a vacant site. The developer and their clients and their representatives have said on several occasions that if they don't receive this gaming commission license, then they won't be able to pursue the project as entitled. So the reason why we want them to analyze a future scenario in which the site is vacant is because the increment that they have to analyze is a lot larger, which would trigger more analyses that they don't have to do now, such as transportation and traffic and things like that. So essentially, if there's a bigger program that they have to study, that can disclose some impacts that will force them to find ways to either mitigate the impacts or to create alternatives for those.
That's perfect summary, thank you.
So I left a couple other comments, but those were really the three biggest ones that I thought were.
Yeah, no, and I think those are all very sensible additions to this testimony. And so, you know, unless somebody on the committee feels very strongly, I think Brendan, we are just going to include Alex's commentary in the version.
Are we gonna incorporate them now?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you just
let's
have to
do it
copy,
now.
you just have to copy.
Just or accept. Okay, Jim, any question?
Yeah, we had talked about the scope of the EIS in terms of the geographic area. And it's very limited. I mean, it's less than a half.
That was another comment that I also included too, is that in addition to the quarter-mile study area, I asked that they provide a study, or they do a study area that includes the entire community district.
Right.
The secondary study areas are usually done with the approval of the lead agency, which in this case is the State Gaming Commission. So they essentially said to whoever prepared this EIS or the draft scope of work, like, we concur that a quarter-mile study is.
Okay.
They have the authority, but State Gaming Commission has the authority to change that study area if they so.
And the fact that this goes through secret, does that preclude consideration under the city environmental?
No, it's gonna be completed pursuant to city secret.
Because city secret has some differences with.
Yep,
with
secret lays out.
Particularly with respect to the socioeconomic.
Yeah, secret lays out some guidance, but they also defer to municipalities that have their own environmental review. So they're gonna defer to secret on this. So the EIS, once completed, will be completed with all of the secret analyses.
Okay, no, that's excellent. And so anyone else on the committee have anything they think is necessary to add to this final testimony?
No.
There are other suggestions that you had, Al?
Yeah, I can just include this, just copy and paste.
Yeah,
Or if you want me to do.
the committee's all on the same page. I think they're quite sensible.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess we I should talk about the.
Yeah, just make sure that it gets into me because I saw that it was sent to Jesus, not.
Yeah, I just replied all.
Yeah.
I didn't realize you weren't copying that.
Okay.
No, and again, this was a mammoth effort in a very short period of time. So we do apologize if there were some sort of, operational hiccups. And we do have a resolution, really just in, very simplified form, states back what we're doing, because we need a resolution to submit comments of this nature that state we are asking this, this study to be pursued per the terms we are laying out in this testimony. So that is what the resolution says. Now I think everyone on the committee has spoken. I'll open up the floor to questions from the public. Yes.
How does the substance of the last presentation affect this presentation?
I mean, they're not in.
What?
I'm sorry.
Flooding level.
They are.
Actually, yeah, yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and we have addressed a lot of flood issues with this building. There's some real concerns about how much water they're using, how they're cooling it, how it interacts with the East River. We think it's a real problem in terms of flood prevention, and so that is addressed in there. Not the casino specifically, but how it is not good sustainable architecture, in addition to all the other problems with it. Yes.
I was also curious, I mean, obviously when you're talking about traffic flow, I'm assuming you're also thinking of like seasonal traffic for like UN, for instance. Like the idea of having a 24/7 casino going on along with the UN meeting. Right. I'm sure that's.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a great point. And we did address that the precariousness of a 24/7 casino with New York City, with the nature of this city, with the healthcare facilities along First Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, the traffic is already between the Midtown Tunnel, NYU hospitals. UN Week is obviously just its own hell. But, and just traffic comes to a standstill as is, it's also if they're having concerts and Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. That's a great point. That's something we've really zeroed in on as a committee is that our position is that this is gonna be a real traffic nightmare for the community. And we want them to, if study it in great detail. We're asking them to do that here.
Yeah, and this is why I brought up the point that, the city has been trying to reduce congestion with congestion pricing. And then this is like, it's like, what are you doing? It defies all logic. And in regards to the water issue, yes, they plan to use a lot of river water, the East River to pool. But I think the machinery and everything, yeah, so we're not too happy.
Using another lead agency, or requesting another lead agency, because the only reason gaming got it is that they suggested themselves instead of the gaming commission.
You can't.
Yeah, I think that's.
Because the gaming commission is the one that's handing out the licenses, so they're the lead agencies. In much the same way that city planning would be lead agency for rezoning, Parks Department would be lead agency for things having to do with Parks Matter.
Yeah.
DEP would be lead agency for things having to do with city matters and city infrastructures.
It says.
You can't change the lead agency because the action is being sought. It's a license.
They initially sent out requests to the other entities saying, we will be the lead agency unless you object. It's in some of the documentation.
Oh, okay, I'm not.
Yeah.
If you could send it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to send off some of these more technical analyses to other agencies that will review them.
Mhm.
Transportation is gonna be reviewed by transportation and things like that. But the agency that gives the okay at the end is gonna be the gaming commission.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think it's worth pointing out that even if it does pass the environmental study, which obviously we are putting a mountain of questions on the menu, it is ultimately down to the CAC, the Community Affairs Committee, which is
Community
outside.
Advisory Committee.
Community Advisory Committee, sorry. That's sort of outside the scope of the DEIS to ultimately give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So I think we can let the lead agency be the lead agency
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go quickly to a question online and then I'll come back to, there's a Jacob online.
Yes, Jacob, you should be allowed to speak.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thanks. Okay. So my question is that, given that casinos are sort of a unique business and they're not usually located in dense residential zones like this one, has there been research, ideally not funded by the gaming industry, about effects on those communities? And
Yes.
Yeah, actually,
You can find them online. There's a lot of studies that have concluded that casinos in an urban area are very detrimental as opposed to casinos in
lower density.
in lower density areas or in, remote areas, but that the impact to residential and areas are just absolutely awful. But you can find them online. Do you have some on?
I know the Richmond Fed did one, that we talked about. There's a number of them that are not funded by the gaming committee.
Right.
And we do ask them to study these issues. In fact, in our preamble, we do talk about how this is unprecedented in terms of a density, putting a casino in a neighborhood this dense. So this is something we are really honed in on.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jacob. Next
I
one.
guess just a blunt question, what's the chance of getting this stopped? I mean, I don't want a casino, I live half a block from it.
Well,
So I was gonna say, we discussed this, I think, last month, when the one at Hutton Yards the developer walked away, and I think somebody else mentioned that it was really vital that the council member spoke up, and so I would advise you to speak to them also, but it's a lot of community voice that really put the pushback on the one in Hudson Yards.
You can actually write the gaming commission yourself. As an individual, there's also a petition on change.org that it's called Casino. And, we've been trying to send it around as much as possible. There are ways. You can write directly to, what's her name, Kristen Buckley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I give you the link. I have the link to the change.org. And it shares.
And is that only for residents within.
No.
It's hard to get the word out to the, we only recently learned about this, we live in the community.
Well, this has been
People-
around for a while though.
Right, sorry. My fault, my bad. I'm just saying.
There are 12 people here.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, there
there should be
there's
500 people
thousands
here. Right?
people
Or maybe there's more,
affected.
but it's great, I'm just saying, people on the Upper West Side are thinking about this, people in Soho aren't thinking about this, like, everyone's got their own.
Well, people on 38th Street aren't, you know, necessarily following community affairs.
Yeah.
100%.
No, 100%. Wait, Brandon, you were gonna say something real quick. and then-
Yeah, just like, kind of dovetailing with what Tanya said, like, make sure to reach out to your elected representatives about this as well, because the mayor, the governor, your assembly person, your senator, your council member, and the borough president will all have an appointee to this community advisory committee that's been mentioned tonight, that will give an up or down vote on the proposed casino, so reach out to your elected officials.
And it seems right into the gaming commission are in the pockets of the developers, they want this to go.
But you know what, the more harassment they get, the better it
Well,
is.
we don't call it that. Actually, the gentleman behind you first, yes, sir.
Hi, it's my first time here and
Welcome.
I have known about this project for a while. But on the last few weeks, as I mentioned when I met you earlier, that I work for some of the businesses I do their management. There's been a campaign of leaflets passed on to business owners about the benefits about having a casino, especially to restaurants and stuff like that. And so on the business in the area, they all getting the idea that they should call and beg for the casino because the restaurants are going to be better.
And they're not.
So they're not, but is there anything done to the rest? I was talking to people in my building, it's a very large building, and nobody had any idea. Is there any way we can get this information more to the public?
We do a campaign.
It can't hurt. I mean,
Because they are doing an active campaign passing leaflets. Pro the casino.
That it will be good for them?
Yes.
No, and it would be good for that.
Yeah.
A restaurant owner that has
Yeah.
a place on Second Avenue between 35th and 36th, she said to me, this would be great for business. I said, no, it's not. And I had to go through a whole, elaboration of why it wouldn't be good for her business. But she lives basically from NYU catering and things like this. So the whole idea to her of more people in the neighborhood means more money, and
The object of a casino is to keep people in the casino and gambling, yeah.
Not doing DoorDash.
so there is a campaign pro casino in the neighborhood going on right now.
If
Yeah.
mining and dining, a lot of residents, the buildings as well.
yeah, no, absolutely. All I can say is, as the community board member, is that you are quite welcome and encouraged to call your elected officials and ask them what their position is and who they're appointing to the CAC and that, because that's really the ultimate, back to your question of like, what is the binary up or down? That's really the mechanism that'll determine it.
Yeah, but as far as informing, like I came to this meeting because it was wrapped around on lampposts.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And not everybody looks at their plans. Is the board doing anything to inform the residents of what's going on?
And I'm a chair of the board.
Sure, sure.
So, we have an email blast that goes out, I believe,
Weekly.
and it includes information about the casino and how to, we sent out the survey, or not survey, the petition to ask people to sign it. We participated in, actually Senator Gonzalez had a big forum on it. We participated in that. That was a year ago.
Yes, a year and a half ago.
Yeah, and I think
in January.
right, I think people may have forgotten, but,
Yeah.
we constantly said we are against it, and so in every way that we can, we've been trying to get this information out. Next door, I don't know if anybody heard of this through Next Door, but, we made sure that the petition got on that. So any ideas that you have for how we can increase our outreach, we're happy to.
Before I joined the community board, when I first heard of it, I live in Tudor City. I said, oh, hell no. So I am president of my board in my building. And I wrote a letter and went to every single building in my neighborhood and in Tudor City and left a letter for each one of the board presidents. And I asked them, I told them what was going on. I asked them to call me. That actually revived the Tudor City President's Council, of which I'm chairman now. And all of us got on the same page and we just sent a letter to the Gaming Commission. And I copied every single one of our elected officials on it. And every single building signed against the casino. So you don't have to be at the community board. You can just call your neighbor, go to your buildings, send a letter to people that you know. And that's the way it gets going.
So I believe we have just 2 more days left.
Tomorrow.
That's well.
Game.
And it's to be clear, that's just for the scope of work. Yeah. So there's still lots of opportunity for us.
For instance, for the petition against it, do you have the link or?
For instance,
And does someone have a list of all the officials that we should be writing to? Is that how we?
Yeah, absolutely. It's anyone who represents that area. So it's Assembly Member Harvey Epstein, State Senator Kristen Gonzalez, Borough President Mark Levine, Mayor Eric Adams,
Keep Powers, everybody.
Councilmember Keith Powers.
And Governor Hall.
And Governor, and a player to be named later, and Governor Hope.
and the information is on our CBC's website.
Thank you.
And if you do get our email, it's in that as well.
Does the city give funding to community boards?
Yeah, what
Yes. Not enough.
Obviously,
Not enough.
to be blunt, you need a few $1 million, you need all the like ads that we walk by, they say like on the like charging stations, like you need to build, I mean.
Well, actually, if you saw,
We'll take
if you saw an answer.
Pop up on Instagram.
We were gonna do that, but they won't let us have a casino.
Well, if you saw a very snazzy anti-littering ad on one of those in the last couple of days, that was us.
Yeah.
But we'll take donations. We got a couple of million to take them.
And we do have an Instagram account, but no one follows it.
Thank you very much for all the work that you guys put in, for all of us, speak for residents of our building and most of the neighborhood that nobody wants to sit this year. So thank you for all that, and we'll continue to, take your suggestion. Question, are you communicating and coordinating with any of the community board that's just north of us? Because I anticipate FDR southbound traffic is gonna be horrendous. All these people, because the main entrance, from my understanding, is gonna be on the access road from the FDR. So everybody getting off that, coming from the north, and it's gonna impact people outside of our community board up in, with the next
Community board,
community. And as well, because the traffic for those people, the residents who are trying to use the FDR to get to their homes, it's gonna be horrible.
That's a great question.
That's a good idea, and we have a borough board where all of the chairs get together, I will definitely.
Yeah, because I mean, if you take one lane out, if anyone travels that road recognizes you take one lane out of that, it's a nightmare. And this new habit of people like skipping the exit line and trying to force merge and stopping traffic, it's really gonna create, I think, backups really far north.
No, that's a great point.
Can I just ask, how many of you are condo or co-op owners, and how many of you are renters?
Condo.
Okay, because I think it's gonna kill your property values.
Thank you, 100%. We got a small building in it.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Yes,
Most nice recommendation.
no such thing.
We're talking about reforestation in the city. And I understand this is private land. Is there any way we can persuade the owner as well as the decision makers to consider this to become a park? Well, I mean, I think of what the property values is one thing, what we give back to the city.
And it also, all the boroughs, I believe, is the worst, the greatest person to park ratio. Like
Is
the
it?
most amount of people with the least amount of park.
And our neighborhood is actually the worst.
Yeah, and in all the boroughs.
Our community district is the least.
Sorry, I have a little gun in my mouth, sorry about that. For flood resiliency, I believe they chopped down about 500 trees in the East River Park, so we owe it to the city and the world that we read that. Although I will say that the casino, one of their selling points is that they are going to have, I forget how many acres.
Yes,
Of
yes.
park.
Parts of trail, and yeah.
And that's part, and.
Casino goers,
But
and there's so much of kids like.
Well, exactly, but unfortunately, a lot of people, I think, have, revised their concern about it because of that particular issue, which, it's only an acre more of open space than what would have been there. if
Right.
The proposal had gone
Yeah.
ahead. So unfortunately, I think you will find people who will use that particular argument to justify support for the casino, so don't be fooled.
This committee has advocated for and one additional park space in the city. Which we're very proud of. We'd have to get a private develop, we'd have to buy them out.
Right.
With taxpayer money, and that is slightly beyond the scope of.
We can write a resolution.
They're welcome.
Petition Mr. Bloomberg. Mr. Bloomberg, we could petition him. They got a little island on the west side.
That was like, that's new built land though.
Unfortunately, even more agenda items.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think we should be getting off on.
yeah, absolutely. So I,
To petition Mr. Bloomberg yourself. I
Yeah.
think we're allowed to.
I really thank everybody for coming here tonight.
Thank you very much.
We have a resolution to the effect of, that we just discussed. Do I have a motion from the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, when I call your name, please say whether you are in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Majid Al-Samad.
He's not here.
Tanya Arias.
Approved.
Jim Collins.
Aye.
Maya Donahue.
In favor.
Alec Militic.
In favor.
Rich Mintz.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
Sandra Sherrod.
In favor.
Letty Simon.
In favor.
Mark Thompson.
In favor.
Gabe Terzo.
In favor.
And James Vera.
In favor.
With all 11 committee members in favor, this resolution passes.
Okay,
So this goes out when to the gaming commission?
We need
Meeting Wednesday, we gotta go through.
You just have to
yeah,
consolidate
On Wednesday?
so yeah,
the language.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just has to be.
This goes to full.
Yeah, I'll do that tonight.
Other than that.
I'll send it back to.
All right.
yeah, so that's why we had this meeting tonight.
No, I know.
So we could, okay, and then the last item on the agenda, a discussion of the conditions of Patrick Brown Walk. This will be mercifully short, I promise you. We've already touched on this. Thank you, guys. We have a resolution that's been submitted to the committee asking that we add couple of renovations to the Patrick Brown Walk to the phase 2 scope of work. For the ESCR, we're asking that the trellises be cleaned up and de-rusted. We're asking that graffiti be removed. We're asking that the surfaces be anti-graffiti. That was Maya's idea. We use anti-graffiti surfaces, and we're asking that the bricks be leveled. Anyone who's ever biked or ran on that path knows that it is full of.
Where's?
So 15th to 18th on the East River. It's like the brick path on the East River.
Well, I'm what streets? I go, there all the time.
It's like where you said you were walking.
Oh, where it is.
It's right behind you.
Right by the flood.
It's right behind you in the bottom left of the map.
Where it gets skinny.
Yeah,
north of the
exactly.
pinch point.
Down.
It's just north of that, yeah.
And then you have to like, yeah. Got it.
Yeah, we're asking that those bricks be leveled. They are in places in a state of disrepair. So we think this is a very modest ask and something that can be folded into the scope of work. We're asking DDC and SBS, who is technically the city agency in control of that piece of property, to add this to the scope of work. Any questions from the committee?
Larry has a question.
Good to go.
Okay,
Larry?
Yeah, hi. This is pretty much good to go, but there are a couple of other features which should be mentioned. And that is the benches will need to be repaired as necessary, and the trash receptacles, which were physically integrated into the walkway when it was first constructed, ought to be restored.
Why do the trash bins that were in the walkway have to be restored specifically?
Well, they were bolted to the ground, and it was an arrangement that worked very well. And now there isn't any formal means of disposing of your trash except letting it blow into the river.
Okay, I mean, Larry, do you have a language?
No, I don't have any specific language. And
I think-
it's a little difficult for, I'd say it's a little difficult for me on my end here because I can't wear any glasses. And so maybe somebody can take a crack at writing something there.
I was just gonna say, maybe less specific, instead of restoration of the original trash enclosures, just
Trash.
addition or replacement of the trash receptacles.
Well, provision of trash receptacles then, and repair of benches.
Done. Provision of trash receptacles and repair of benches.
All right, I'll move that old business changed resolution.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Second.
Provision of trash receptacle repair of benches.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we'll now take a roll call vote.
Yeah.
Tim approved.
Okay. So when I call your name, please say whether you're in favor, opposed, abstain, or not entitled. Tanya Arias.
In favor.
Jim Collins.
Aye.
Maya Donahue.
In favor.
Alice Militic.
Not entitled.
Rich Mintz.
In favor.
Larry Shire.
In favor.
Sandra
In
Sherrod.
favor.
Letty Simon.
In favor.
Mark Thompson.
In favor.
Gabe Terzo.
In favor.
And James Vera.
In favor.
With 10 committee members in favor and 1 not entitled, this resolution passes.
Okay, terrific.
Old business.
Well,
Chairs report.
chairs report.
Sorry.
No, jump
Okay.
to there.
And then Tanya, I'm gonna do it in the chairs report instead.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay, so chairs report, well, this is gonna be our final meeting until September.
Oh, wow.
There'll be a flurry of emails, though. There's a bunch of things to think about. So there's some things that we're gonna be talking about in the next session in September. We're gonna have the state is gonna come, the State Environmental Protection Agency, I forget the exact name. They're gonna talk about the state of the aquifer.
Department of Environmental Conservation, I think.
Department, yes, it's gonna be, it's super fascinating. We are really leaning into water management here in this committee. We are likely gonna revisit MSBI and ask the city and state perhaps to do something proactive instead of reactive. And we're assuming this bill in question is not voted on in June, which seems more likely outcome. We're gonna discuss the faith-based affordable housing law, which is currently in the Assembly and the State Senate and likely to be voted on in the next session. And that is my chair's report. Any old or new business?
Old business. I see that the property that I've been concerned about next to Gramercy Park, the one that has the overhang. The building is demolished and looks like they're commencing construction. I presume it's as of right.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so we don't know what the shadow effects will be on Gramercy Park.
No, it's as of, as of.
It's as of right, yeah, because of the transfer of air rights.
Yeah.
Well, no, they sold,
Yeah, I know.
they sold the building. The owners got together and sold the building.
But the owners of the building transferred the air rights, right? They sold.
They transferred, who sold the building and sold it down.
No, the building that's still next to the park also sold their rights.
Well, they turned it down.
Not the building that's.
But
sitting
it is
on Gramercy
beyond
Park.
the scope of what we can do in this moment.
A resident told me that the
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to
So
adjourn at
moved. Good night.
8:33 PM. Thank you.
Good night.
Let's sweat into that.